Hello, and welcome to my Grace Talks for September 2020. I'm happy you're here. I'm Reverend Suzanne Grace Raleigh, and I am a licensed practitioner, an interfaith minister, a yoga and meditation teacher, a life coach, a chaplain, all kinds of things. And I love coming together once a month to give a talk, an inspiration of something we can look at that may raise our consciousness and open us to our greater good. And this month in the Centers for Spiritual Living, the monthly theme has been all about faith and facing the fear. And my topic today is just do it. Just do what? Well, you'll find out. Reverend Michael Bernard Beckwith says, when we have an intention around an outcome, before we have any physical evidence of it, that is called faith. That is called conviction. That is called mystical sight. That is called oneness with the presence. And think about it, aren't there many stories of things that we have not believed possible? The sub 4-minute mile, a 2-hour marathon, spontaneous remission of diseases, walking on the moon. Each of these old beliefs was proved possible by someone who had such faith in their ability for the impossible that nothing could sway them. If it is said that faith can move mountains, is it the faith itself or the faith moved through the faithful being? When faith inspires us, we are called into action of some sort. That could be prayer, forgiveness, gratitude, service to others, or some other creative action. And I invite you to notice right now, do you have faith in the negative more than in the positive? Are you constantly saying, oh, the world is in a bad place, there's so much division, it'll always be this way? Yes, that's true. And remember, Metaphysics 101, what we put our attention on grows. That's the law. That's just the way it works. So if we keep talking about what's wrong, we're going to get more of it. Why not focus on what's right? What's right with you? What's right with what you want? Wouldn't you rather lean in the direction of what you do want with faithful anticipation? What if there is a song of joy and harmony singing at the center of your being, and you can't hear it because of your constant complaining? Yeah. So we have to do some self-observation in order to become familiar or even notice something. We have to spend time observing it. Dr. Joe Dispenza says we go from a doer to a doer-watcher. And as a former professional dancer, I would videotape my rehearsals or my classes. I would videotape me in action, just like an athlete does, so that I could see where I might need to adjust my technique and make it stronger and clearer. So once we observe and are mindful of our old patterns, beliefs, and behaviors, as we are growing in consciousness, Dr. Joe says we can observe ourselves so precisely that we won't allow any unconscious thought, emotion, or behavior to go unnoticed. Yeah. I love that. So we can look at ourselves and decide, what do I want to change? What do I want to change in order to do a better job at something, get a better result, or have a better world? The point is, when we block, hinder, or are outside of the flow of faith, the flow of possibilities, we stagnate rather than flourish and thrive. We close the door to our possible good when we lose faith. The Christian Bible tells us that faith without works is dead. There's that action. Judaism teaches that action is what counts, not merely intention. And in Science of Mind, we say treat and move your feet. Just do it. Do the thing you are called to do. Think about it. If you want a flourishing vegetable garden and you plant all the seeds, if you don't take action and water and prune and pay attention to that garden, it's going to wither and die. You have to act, right? So action is vital to faith. The law of circulation requires both inward and outward focused activity. Yes, we continue to do our prayer work and be spiritually motivated around all the issues we are faced in today's world. And yes, we say God's got this. And we can also be socially engaged and take appropriate action when necessary. It's a both and involvement. I think, and maybe you'll agree with me, that this current time we're in is a wake-up call, right? It's like the light bulb on our dashboard in our car. Engine trouble, engine trouble. It's just telling us something's going on. I mean, we're in a global pandemic. In California, we have fires raging. We have an election coming up. Have you noticed there's unrest in our communities? But let's look at our individual consciousness. There's a responsibility part there. So we ask ourselves, where is there unrest in me? Where is there a virus of fear in me? If we aren't willing to be the peace we want to see, to be the love we want to experience, to be the harmony that is our birthright, what are we creating? Yeah. I believe we have a great opportunity now to weed out old thoughts and behaviors and beliefs and fears. Don't we say in Science of Mind, there's a power for good in the universe and we can use it? Are you using it? Our beloved founder, Ernest Holmes, wrote many wonderful books from the 1930s on. And I'm going to read some of his quotes today that are from that era, but boy, do they apply today. Ernest Holmes said, "New arts, new sciences, new philosophies, better government, and a higher civilization wait on our thoughts. The infinite energy of life and the possibility of our future evolution work through our imagination and our willingness. The time is ready. The place is where we are now, and it is done unto all as they really believe and act." What are you believing? What are you having faith in? And in the Science of Mind textbook, page 160, Ernest continues. He says, "One cannot be a good student of the science of mind who is filled with fear and confusion. You must keep yourself in a state of equilibrium, in a state of poise, peace, and confidence, in a state of spiritual understanding. By spiritual understanding is not meant anything strange or unnatural, but merely the belief in goodness must be greater than any apparent manifestation of its opposite." Hear that. I'm going to say that again. The belief in goodness must be greater than any apparent manifestation of its opposite. What are we looking at? It is this science of faith, he calls it, we are seeking to uncover. The science of faith, a definite technique that will conduct our minds through a process of thought, if necessary, to that place which the great minds of all ages have reached by direct intuition. He goes on to say we should be careful not to divide our mental house against itself. Having announced the law of liberty, we must not deny it. When we shall all know the truth, then ways and means and methods will be found for the freedom of all. The mold of our acceptance is the measure of our experience. The infinite will fill all molds and forever flow into new and greater ones. Within us, he says, is the unborn possibility of limitless experience. Ours is the privilege of giving birth to it. Wow. It's within us. As one of my colleagues, Reverend Sarah Nichols, says, stop coping and start voting. Ah, voting. Have you heard there's an election soon? And think about this. Voting is simply a choice, isn't it? And we choose a zillion things a day. We make choices. We vote for something every day, don't we? We can choose or vote to be kind. We can choose to be peaceful, forgiving. We can choose to be angry and confused. What are you voting with? And what are you voting for? Are you for something or only against something? That was another good Ernest point out. He says, Ernest, the power of choice, choosing, which we have been endowed is either our greatest blessing or our greatest curse. Properly understood, it can lift us to the heights. Misunderstood, it can drag us to the depths. We are free to choose anything we wish, he says, but we must accept the responsibility for our choices, because the law will create our experience according to our choices. The law always says yes. That's what we say here. So what are you putting out there? Just to notice. So another colleague of mine, a practitioner in Dallas, Tracy Brown, asks us, do your words and actions indicate that your daily vote is for humanity? To support people, programs, policies, and practices that lead to the revelation of truth and the elimination of discord? With your words and actions, are you voting each day for heaven on earth or something less? Acting from our spiritual nature is naming a condition and then setting an intention for a change in condition that aligns with the nature of God, being guided by spiritual principle and practice, doing what is necessary to reveal the truth. As we say in Science of Mind, there's nothing to heal, only the truth to be revealed. She goes on to say, poverty, racism, homophobia, gender inequality, global warming are like the disease of cancer in the collective body of humanity. We acknowledge it, and we align with the appropriate spiritual qualities, evaluate possible actions, choose which strategies will result in revealing the spiritual truth, and be an active participant in co-creating the desired outcome. Just do it. I'm impressed that the Centers for Spiritual Living actually has a committee called Spiritually Motivated Social Engagement Committee. I'm going to say that again. Spiritually Motivated Social Engagement Committee. And this committee wrote up a wonderful agenda about voting and a voter guide. And it's a really beautiful reminder of coming into our center before we go to the ballot box or the mail vote, whatever's happening. So I want to read the Centers for Spiritual Living Voter Guide. And first they talk about the center's vision summary. And I'd like you to listen to these and see if you can check it off after I say it, that that's your vision also. It might or it might not be. CSL vision. We see a world that works for everyone, where all life is honored as expressions of the divine, where people live according to spiritual truth, where unity and connection is emphasized, where humanity awakens to its spiritual magnificence, where humanity rediscovers personal creative power, where we live as one global family, where kinship with all life prospers, where spiritual guidance is valued, where we are called to conscious social action, where people have enough food, homes, and a sense of belonging, where forgiveness is the norm, where there is peace, harmony, and justice for all, where there is a renewed emphasis on beauty, nature, creativity, art, and aesthetics, where resources are valued, cared for, and shared, and where communities are meaningfully involved in service to the world. Those are CSL's values. So they say when you go to vote, and it could be for a ballot measure or a proposition. For instance, you can look at that ballot measure and say to yourself, does this reflect a positive direction for everyone in my community? Does it express a vision that works, a vision of a world that works for everyone? You can ask yourself that with every ballot measure or proposition. See what your heart tells you. And then candidates, from city council to a new president, to a president. Which of the candidates for you, for this position, whatever it is, best align with values consistent with those of CSL and myself, and its vision of a world that works for everyone? So before submitting your ballot, they say, just review and make sure you're at peace with your vote, your choice, your decision. Yeah, I mean, it's so obvious, but sometimes I think we get all caught up in not, it's us against them kind of thing. And as people of faith, we reject the idea of others. At least I hope we do. Ernest says, it's quite a burden lifted when we realize that we do not have to move the world. The world is going to move anyway. This realization does not lessen our duty or our social obligation. It clarifies it. It enables us to do joyously and free from heaviness that which we should do in the social state. Treat and move your feet. Stop coping and start voting. Just do it. Just do it. I recently took a class through CSL with over 200 other practitioners, and ministers also did this, and lay people also took this class, looking at white supremacy. It was called Me and White Supremacy. And I had my doubts about it, but boy, I learned so much from this class about the privileges that I have had as a person with certain skin color. And I was very touched and moved by how I have not neglected, but just thought it's not my problem, certain things going on in the world. And yet, it is affecting me. It does have to do with me. So I decided that I would do something and take action. I wasn't sure what to do, but I went within, I did some prayer work around it, and the first thing that came up for me, and something that they had suggested, was if you don't want to go out and protest, write letters to your Congress people, have people, look at so many different things. And the other thing was to contribute financially, and that's something I can do. So I mindfully and prayerfully chose 3 organizations to donate to. And I just felt so good about that. It was some action I could take right now. And I'm sure I will do more action in this realm, but for me, for now, that was my starting point. And I'm grateful I was able to do that. When we are truly doing our work in consciousness, the choices and the votes we make and the experiences we have in our physical life will change. That's a foundational brick within our philosophy, that our mental power can and does change the physical environment. Our thoughts change, and that leads to new beliefs. New beliefs will drive new behaviors. New behaviors, repeated, become new habits. And new habits generate a new experience of life. So therefore, as we embody and embrace wholeness, harmony, peace, and love, we become compelled to live in that way as well. So let's affirm today. Repeat after me. Today I act in ways that affirm the inherent goodness of all. Today, I act in ways that affirm the inherent goodness of all. Just breathe that in. Yes. So I'm going to end with a little story. And this is from Hank Wesselman, who some of you may know is an American anthropologist and spiritual author. And this is from his book called The Bowl of Light. Hank writes about a well-known Hawaiian story that refers to this bowl of light, as told by a Hawaiian elder that he befriended named Makua. After a long afternoon of conversation peppered with humor and goodwill, Makua presented me with a gift, a beautiful wooden bowl. "This is your bowl of light," he said. "Each of us comes into the world from the great beyond with our bowl of light, our gift from our Amakua, our higher self. We Hawaiians know this light is conveyed into us with our very first breath, and we call this breath Ha, the divine life. This light then resides within us, nourishing and sustaining us as we pass through life until it returns to its source at life's end." Makua considered the bowl thoughtfully. "Whenever we step into the negative polarity, however, whenever we injure others through our deeds, our words, or our thoughts, it is as though we put a stone in our bowl, and some of our light goes out. Slowly, as our bowl fills with stones, our light dims until it is nearly gone. Hopefully, we discover this before it turns dark. And you know what we do then? We dump it out." He exploded into laughter. We start over then, he says. But from that time forward, things are different. It is then that we begin to live our lives with greater awareness. And it is then that we begin to walk our path toward the luminous wisdom of our destiny. I believe somewhere hidden behind the smoky haze, behind the COVID fear, behind any anxiety of an upcoming election, there is that light. That light that is brighter than any darkness. Let's make it a practice to dump out our bowl. Judgments, resentments, confusion, upset, fear, and commit to our faith. Commit to our practices. Commit to our trust in the greater good. Let us vote daily to be compassionate, forgiving, loving, kind, and envision, hold that vision of the world that works for everyone. Everyone. Just do it. Just do it. Please. If we all do it, our world will change. Namaste.